Seems like I was just bragging on a previous video that top deck didn't need much work, just cleaning and painting. I should never do that. Brag, that is. Never ever brag.
There's a fiberglass ceiling back on his back soffit, and it was sagging. And you could tell they had removed the factory screws and put longer screws. And it's because water had got in this crack and rotted the 2x, just a dimensional Home Depot lumber, rotted the 2x, so there was nothing for the screws to hold anymore. I just cut the soffit back with the grinder. I'll glue another 2x. This is the fiberglass soffit that I had to remove to replace a rotten board. This is a little pile of caulk from the factory. There's another pile of caulk from the factory. Pretty impressive. Alright, so this was actually pretty simple. This had a 2x glued to this face, so the soffit will go back. I'll have to glue a board here and I'll just screw it. I'm not going to do anything too fancy because you really can't see this at all. And luckily, while we're here, I can grab some 12-volt power, so we can have a light back here. We wanted a light, and we got lucky. There's power. So looking up at the back soffit, I just attached this little strip, so tomorrow I can put the fiberglass back if I get my little wire connectors. I gotta do that. So laying on my back one more time, I just wanted to show the soffit on the back overhang. I put back in place and ran a little strip of aluminum to hide the joint. Needs another coat of paint, but everything's lovely, and we have wires for a light. The sides aren't too bad. I'll do some remedial stuff on them. I'm not going to cut the soffit on the sides. But the front, the more we looked at it, it was kind of up there, but we said, you know, we're doing everything right now. I'm gonna knock this down. It was like, you know, we're doing all this work right now, we might as well address it. So the front had a 2x around the perimeter, cut on a curve. And it was just fur, no paint whatsoever, and it was starting to rot. It wasn't as bad as the back was, but we went ahead and pulled this down. I don't have to cut this off because we have room to work above the existing fiberglass. So we'll put a new piece around the perimeter. I'm going to brace these up because the front is sagging a little bit. I don't know if you can see that. And then we'll put some exposed screws to hold it up. But that's what we're doing now. These were the two structural boards that came off the front, and even though they're soft, they came off in good enough shape for templates, thankfully. And this is some cypress that I've planed down to the same thickness, and I'm going to use this cypress to cut new ones. And this up here, I've got no video of installing. This was the curved boards. We put them up in there, and they're screwed directly straight up and down into some little 1x's that are kind of hanging up there. And then we had to screw the soffit back because it was originally glued to the 1x's. I'm not sure how they did that. So when we put the trim back, there'll be screws coming from the bottom and screws coming from the top. You can kind of see where they were. And we'll try a novel concept. We'll put caulk to keep the water from getting in there. But we'll put it back together better than the way we took it apart, or better than it was when we took it apart.
When we took the two-piece aluminum trim off of the soffit so we could work on it, it fits so-so. And I was thinking, you know, we'd been working on it, we probably changed the shape a little bit. We were going to have a hard time getting it to fit perfectly when we put it back. But au contraire, it fit perfectly. Go figure.
And one thing that's weird, when I jacked up the ceiling, it left a divot right here. It holds water all along here on both sides. Like there's a big camber, and then there's a little dip, and then it goes down the wrong way. So I think when we get the handrail off, I'm going to go ahead and fill that area.
I don't like the fact that water's sitting there, although it's not leaking because there's no holes there. But we just don't like it. Kind of going a little crazy here on the filler to skim coat these bumps out of these decks. I had a lot of this Tynamic Series 69 epoxy paint left over. It was a gimme, so I mixed it up, made it thick with thickener, and troweled it on this spot right here. It was the green. It's all covered up now, and in a couple of days it got real hard and it sanded well. So all the green's gone. So now I had some Tynamic 135 left over. That was a gimme. I mixed it with thickener and skim coated this side and did the first skim coat on this side, and hopefully it'll get hard. And then down there at the bottom I had some Series 66 left over from that we actually bought. It was for priming the aluminum engine mounts. So again, I mixed it with some thickener and used it like sheetrock mud to fix some low spots. And I wouldn't do this in a critical area where if it failed I'd have to do a lot of redo. This is just really cosmetic work up on this deck. If it fails, nothing lost. I'll just have to grind it off and do it again. I need to fill under the handrails. Took a ride to see my coating contractor friend to restock on my epoxy paints. I was running low, and this time I picked up some Tynamic and some DeVoe and some Valspar. And unfortunately I don't have none of them are white. I've got some blues and some yucky browns, but started with the Tynamic because I'm familiar with Tynamic. Mixed it with thickener, and this is my second skim coat. I try not to do too thick. I'm shooting for maybe probably starting out 1/8 of an inch at a time, but it's not 100% solid, so there is some shrinkage after it dries. So, but I'm just keep building up and keep sanding. As long as this stuff will get hard, I'm happy. Okay, so I thought I had my finished coat, but I hosed it and it's still holding a little bit of water. So I thought, heck, I might as well do it right. So I'm going to skim it one more time. I've got the little low spots circled with pencil mark to make sure I don't miss them. So on the last skim coat, I was out of Tynamic paint, so I switched to the DeVoe, and of course it didn't harden, and I was scared I was going to have to scrape it all off. But after 3 full days of sunshine, it did harden. I guess it has maybe more solvents in it, and when it skimmed on the top, the solvents couldn't get out. So I'm not saying the DeVoe is not as good of a paint, but it didn't work as well as a filler as the Tynamic paint has been working. But it's all good in the end. It sanded smooth, and I went back over it, and I was out of unfortunately the white Tynamic, and I primed it with some brown Tynamic to make it easier to top coat it with our white deck paint. So in total I've used over 5 gallons of this paint as filler. So we've saved some money on epoxy, and I think actually the thickened paint is easier to spread and level than the heavy bodied epoxies that I've been using. Painted the big deck yesterday with the non-skid. One coat didn't quite cover all the dark spots, but it did pretty good. One more coat is certainly going to cover. And man, it looks good. Handrail will go back on today.